Hello and welcome to game week 20/21 of the EFL Fantasy Football League show, the game where me and Mr. Lamming, which is this guy here, challenge each other every single week. And in a momentous show of power and strength by myself, it was another win for me this week to bring it to 10-8. Now, I know there's a caveat, and I can see you itching to put that caveat in there. But just give me my moment for a minute. It's 10-8. It was 10-6 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, it's Christmas. You can have your moment.
Thank you.
I was, of course, following the 1% rule, but I've had success with that as well. So I don't think it's that much of a leveler anymore, is it?
No, it's not.
But also, I have to admit, on a personal note, congratulations to you, etc. But on a personal note, this is a really big week coming up. There's a triple game week. There are 3 fixtures included in one selection. This could really swing things in terms of points quite a lot. It's a big one. It's a really big one. And I never like losing, obviously. I think that's been made pretty clear over the last however many weeks we've been doing this. But if I was ever going to lose a week, this week just gone was the week to lose. Because if I had won, I would have still been under the handicap of the 1% rule going into this triple game week where you ideally you'd like to be able to select whoever you want. So yeah, I don't like losing, but if I was ever going to lose, this was the week to do it.
So you didn't lose on purpose, is what you're saying?
I didn't lose on purpose. No, I'm not going to. Yeah, it was. Yeah, I'm not going to pretend that there's a moral victory here or anything for me this time around. You're definitely ahead on moral victories.
I am ahead on moral. I think we should just award me the moral trophy. To be honest, because actually this week is not just a victory for me, but also a moral victory, given that an error in my team selection meant that my points total went down from what's actually been registered
by a single point. But yes, you're absolutely right.
Morally, I've still won, even with a glitch in the system again. Funny how these glitches in the system only ever seem to happen to me, isn't it?
Yeah, that does seem to be an interesting trend that's appearing. You're right.
Yeah. So I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll have a look at the 2 teams, and we will start with the losing team, which is Substandard Liège. So talk us through, Chris, what went wrong, what went right?
Well, yeah, I really was substandard, wasn't I, this time round? Just picked the wrong players, Gary. I think that's probably what I did, to be honest with you. Yeah, Arahan, who, when we recorded this last week, we had both captained. That's where the little glitch in the system went wrong for you. But we did both kind of count the points as if Arahan was captain. I thought that was a clever pick, but you thought it as well. So there you go. That kind of cancelled it out. But he was my highest scoring player. The only player to score double figures this week in my team, and that was only because of his captainship. I should have picked Mr. Clara as my captain, who picks up 8 points, would have got me 16. But to be honest, there's nowhere here I could have really found extra points, or if I just selected this, or kind of captain someone else, it wouldn't have made a huge difference. I think for a lot of players here, if the majority of your players are picking up sort of 6, 7, 8 points, you're generally relatively happy, providing you get 1 or 2 kind of big scorers. But yeah, there was just no real outstanding players here this week, sadly. I was particularly disappointed by Birmingham, particularly Williamson, not because he didn't play particularly well, but I thought Birmingham were really good for a strong victory this weekend, but they only narrowly won. So disappointed, to be honest. And also Middlesbrough, I expected there to be goals in that game away at Plymouth. I think I said on this show, or one of the shows I did, that it wouldn't surprise me if it was like 6-2 or something to Middlesbrough, but it finished up being 3-3, which was disappointing. A 4-3 would have been absolutely fine. A 3-2 would have been absolutely fine. So I was right in the prediction of goals, but just wrong in the prediction of the actual outcome. So yeah, a fully deserved victory for you. Poor selections by me overall, to be honest. So no complaints, sadly, this week.
Now, I'm actually going to defend you. So you're ripping yourself apart. On a double game week, would 112 be a good haul?
It would be okay. Yes, it would. It's not a bad haul. It's not like I got players that didn't play or players that got sent off or anything along those lines, or picked up like 1s and 2s. But there was just no outstanding kind of picks this week. And in all honesty, most weeks I've managed to have at least 1 or 2 players that have picked up double figures away from being a captain, which has probably been the difference, and just didn't manage it this week. So thank you for defending me. It must be Christmas or something. But Yeah, I was quite disappointed with myself, I have to say, on this one.
It's easy to be magnanimous when you are the winning team. And here is the winning team with Call and I. Now, Mr. Cooper is my captain there, 14 points. I didn't select him as captain on the screenshotted version last week. I actually selected Ethan Arahan. So technically, I'm on 62 points, which could have been a real bone of contention had things not quite gone as well. For me this week, it could have been a real argument point. Mickey Demetriou never lets me down. Pordy O'Connor didn't let me down. Huddersfield absolutely smashing. I think it was Cambridge, wasn't it, on the Friday night? Was brilliant. I mean, I'd already got huge points. I think did Sheffield United play as well on the Friday night? Whatever it was, I was already on 26 points by the time Saturday kicked off. Actually, Gus Hamer, Cabango, and Tom Cannon, all fairly disappointing. Just 7 points across 3 players is a low haul. But it's Demetriou, it's O'Connor, it's the old stalwarts, it's Huddersfield Town, who I did, looking at that, we saw Huddersfield play Lincoln a couple of weeks ago, and they're a good side, and they're going to score goals against bad teams. Port Vale kind of let me down a little bit. But again, I think you take on average 8 from your 2 teams at the bottom, you've done well. And then I think if you take on average kind of 7 across the board, one of those is going to be your captain on 14. So, you're going to be in a relatively decent position if you're averaging 7 from your players and 8 from your 2 teams at the bottom. And that's more or less what's happened with me here. So it's not a brilliant week. If you said on a double game week, would 126 be a good score? It would be a huge score. But on a single game week, it's nice just to nudge 70 if you're going to be outstanding. And what's really annoying is, I looked at a couple of strikers, and I think all the strikers I looked at in place of Cannon scored this week. Jatta at Notts County got a double. He would have been a good pick. So, yeah, that was the winning team that has brought me to 10-8. So we'll have a quick look at the Stacey West League, because we have a new player.
Do we?
From nowhere, we have Mr. R. Glass here, who's all of a sudden second, and he's pushed Mr. Meacham and Mr. John Leonard down. Now, I'm wondering if he may be somebody who's not a Lincoln fan, who's from the EFL chat thing that we've been on. So that's actually his team as well. Look for this. How's that? Because it's showing us his team for this coming week.
You must have already selected it.
Maybe not. Yeah, but it doesn't normally show you. It normally shows you, is it locked? Maybe it's not. So this game, first of all, before we go overall, we'll look at this game week. So, I mean, 87 is a top score. 82, Ed Harrison on 81, which was playing the 2-2-2 formation. But again, with Hamer and Azaz, it's all about Bogle there. Look, 32 points, captain in Bogle. I mean, that's huge. Just looking down, you still have to go a fair way down before you come to me. I'm going to be dropped off outside the top 20. So we're both probably mid-table also rans at the minute, aren't we?
Very much so.
Overall, Josh is still out there and ahead. But thanks to our new player, it is only 25 points that he's now ahead by. So that'll be interesting to watch. In the Battle of the Imps, Mr. Meacham, whose first name I apologise we don't have, is battling it out with John Leonard and Ed Harrison. Matt Fenton's a little bit of a way behind, but this is a triple game week, 3 games. This is huge. It's going to give a massive opportunity for somebody to catch those people above them. Now, I'm 33rd, 1,277 points.
I'm 30th, by the way.
You're 30th,
21 points.
21 points. So it is all going to be on this week. Before we go on to this week, oh, by the way, where's Des Dean on the 1% Club? Always on 1%. Tucked in right behind me there.
Outstanding really performance.
Well. Yeah, really good. So who should we have picked this week for our max effect, Christopher?
Well, goalkeeper would be James Beadle of Sheffield Wednesday. 12 points in a single game is a reasonable outcome, particularly when you include a penalty save in there, some bonus points for a penalty save, as well as a clean sheet and some extra saves in there as well. Defender.
Did he say Tom? Sorry, who was he keeper for? I missed.
Sheffield Wednesday. Yes, he did say Tom Cannon's penalty.
Cannon's penalty, which is why I got a 0 and not a 3. Brilliant.
That's right. Well, defender Brodie Spencer of Huddersfield Town. Huddersfield had some really high scoring players this week overall. A lot of double figures in their squad due to the 4-0 win and some good performances. Brody was the highest scoring defender in the whole game with 18 points. Of course, when a defender scores, that's always nice. That's a goal, which gets extra points. 7 clearances, 4 tackles, plus the clean sheet, of course, gives him 18. Centre forward, Callum Lang, 29 points in a single game week. Scored all 4 goals in Portsmouth's 4-1 home victory against Coventry City. But despite scoring 4 goals, was not the highest scoring player this week. That accolade goes to Bryn Morris of Newport County, 30 points for a single match. If you captained him, that would be 60 points you'd get, which is more than I got for the whole game week. Scored a hat-trick in the 6-3 victory over MK Dons, added some interceptions in there as well. So you get the goals for the hat-tricks, of course, but you also get bonus points for scoring the hat-trick itself as well, plus the regular midfield stuff like key passes, interceptions, etc. as well. He was outstanding in that game with a hat-trick. 30 points for an individual game week is incredible.
Wow. If you had your max captainship, that would be a brilliant pick. So it's 10-8. We've gone through all the top players. This is a big week because you shot your load early with your max captainship, didn't you?
Yeah. Well, obviously, we're always learning this game. We're never
We are always learning.
We're never really settled, I don't think, on tactics and always kind of trying to find the next best way of approaching things. But I like to think I've got a far greater understanding now of how the game works than I did when I played my max captainship. I seem to remember this was off the back of, I think I'd lost 4 in a row towards the start of the game.
Yeah.
So I've gone from winning 3 in a row at the start to then losing 4, maybe even 5 in a row.
4.
And I thought I need to do everything I possibly can to make sure I win this next week. So I had a bit of a short-term mentality, which is, of course, as we've now learned, bad thing to do on this game. So I played my max captainship, lost that week anyway, so completely wasted it. Whereas now we've got our triple game week. You've been mentioning it every week since you're saving it until this week when there's 3 games. So here we are. Here we are.
And on the max captainship this week, to be fair, I'm feeling relatively confident because our teams are not hugely different again, even though we have picked some players that we haven't been picking. So anyway, here we go. This is my team, winner's privilege. So we'll do mine first. They're all in gold because any one of them, whoever scores the highest, that is where my points will go. So we won't actually have a clear indication of who has won until New Year's Day. Even if you're miles ahead, we won't actually know. I assume the max captainship will bounce from player to player. So I'll just get the highest score at the end of each thing. So the variables are unbelievable here. I do fear losing this week because you lost on your max captainship week, and it would just make some really bad television. If that's what you watch this on, you may watch it on your phone, you may watch it on your computer, but it'd make bad television for me and really good viewing for everybody else. Let me take you through my Lincoln City themed team because there is a heavy Lincoln City theme here with 2 ex-imps and 2 current imps. So I've gone for Ryan Allsop in goal. Now, bear in mind, he has been rotated at times with Bailey Peacock Farrell for Birmingham, but he's been playing regularly. Birmingham keep clean sheets. I think with so many games in such a short period of time, with them now challenging for the title, I think rotation of goalkeeper is something that they will try and steer away from. So I'm backing Ryan Allsop to play all 3 games. They're not particularly easy games. I mean, who the hell is STP, by the way? I mean, I know I've researched it. Stockport, of course. What's wrong with STO? They're not easy games. Blackpool and Bolton or Burton, BTN?
Oh, no? I assumed that was. I think that's Bolton. I
thought it was Bolton. I suppose Burton will be like BAL or something. So the tough games. So Ryan Allsop is either going to keep clean sheets or he's going to make saves, but he's got one of the best defences in the division in front of him. And yeah, I steered away from my usual pick of Mr. Cooper, who's had 2 weeks for me, captained last week by accident. So I'm backing Allsop. Now, across the back, Mickey Demetriou is a brain. If you don't pick Mickey Demetriou, in my opinion, you are brainless in this game because he consistently scores points every single week. And I would say that when we touch base in over a week's time, won't it? Because what we're on now, the 23rd, so it'll probably be 8 or 9 days' time. Mickey Dimitriou will have 24, 25 points. He scores 7s and 8s, 6s, 7s and 8s most weeks easily. So he's an obvious pick. Paudie O'Connor's an obvious pick because Lincoln are playing both Shrewsbury and Rotherham. Both teams will put the ball on the centre halves, so there's going to be lots of clearances. That's where Paudie tends to get most of his points from. He's the Lincoln player that will play centrally. He's the one that will go and win the headers. He is an obvious pick this week. If I didn't have my max captainship, my captain would be going on Paudie this week. I mean, he's been consistently good at what he does. And then a random pick that neither of us have picked up until this week is Alex Mitchell. Now, looking at the games that Charlton have, Cambridge at home and Crawley away, I can see a couple potential clean sheets there. Maybe not against Wickham, but against Wickham, I can see aerial duels and interceptions, etc. So I think it's a good week to draft Alex Mitchell in. Now, bear in mind, our good friend Charlie Beeston, who hasn't picked his team since week 1, last week or the week before, had Alex Mitchell in and finished top 30 based on Alex Mitchell's points. So Alex Mitchell was my kind of wild card. Chris will never think of this. Wait until you see Chris's team. Spoiler alert. So there was Alex Mitchell. That's my pick. Now, in the middle of the park, I was torn because I've gone for Ethan Arahan, thinking he plays 90 minutes for Lincoln and he's likely to start every game. Therefore, there's guaranteed points. Against Bolton, there's likely to be interceptions. It's not necessarily the case against Shrewsbury and Rotherham that there will be all that many interceptions. They're the sort of teams that tend to bypass the midfield. So he was a pick that I was a little bit unsure about. I thought about Rodoni at Coventry because he's been scoring really highly and Coventry's fixtures look favourable. So I'd looked at him and I'd also looked at Finn Azaz, which again, spoiler alert, wait until you see Chris's team. But I figured with Finn Azaz, he might not play all 3 games. The certain players you look at and think he will definitely play 90 minutes 3 times this week, no problem. There's others you look and think, I'm not sure that'll happen. I haven't backed much from the Championship this week, but I have backed Bristol City's night. And the reason I've done that is those fixtures. Luton at home, winnable. Portsmouth at home, winnable. Plymouth away, winnable. Bristol City are a little bit of a dark horse in the Championship, doing well. And I just wanted to get one of their players or them in my team this week. I think they've got some good festive fixtures. Hence going there. Now, Borja Sainz, I have not had the benefit of him in the past. Whenever I've picked him, he's been crap. Whenever I've dropped him, he's bagged hat tricks and all sorts. Millwall at home, massively winnable. I don't know if they're still managerless or if Alex Neil's gone in there. QPR at home, hugely winnable because QPR are frankly rubbish. Luton away is winnable for Norwich. Now, if all 3 of those games are winnable, you expect Borja Sainz to at least start all 3. I expect him to get a goal or 2. And really, I think in the triple captain week, in the triple game week rather, you're not specifically looking for a player that's going to be excellent in all 3. You're looking for fixtures where they could thrive, but then will also score okay in the other one. So I look at QPR and Millwall at home and think Norwich should win those games and they should win them well. So Luton away is then kind of a little bit of a free hit. And when you've got your max captain to kind of drop around as well, if there's a massive outlier and he scores 3 away at Luton, you kind of covered. So it's a bit of a safety net. Now, I have absolutely just played percentages down at the bottom. I've just picked what I think are the 2 best teams in the 2 divisions. Birmingham, they are winning games. Birmingham will take 7 points over Christmas. They won't lose many games at all this season. I don't think they'll lose them on over Christmas. So they will, even if they're drawing, it's just about that regular point scoring. I haven't been looking for the outlier. I haven't been looking for, the outstanding side that's going to smash everybody apart. I'm just looking for regular consistency because we all like a bit of consistency. And Leeds, again, Stoke away, Derby away, both games where I think Leeds could go away and win and get more points for an away win. And then that home game against Blackburn, no matter how good Blackburn have been, they were beaten in the last minute last weekend. And by the time you get to the end of the Christmas period, New Year's Day, you go to Elland Road, it's going to be a tough place. I think that's a strong side. I do. What do you think?
Well, so do I. I think it's a strong side as well. I suppose a couple of points, like you're going to see my team in a moment. We've had so many options to pick from. There were so many fixtures, so many variables this week. I thought we was going to have completely different sides. There are quite a lot of similarities between you and me. But I just want to touch on your team selection and also on Ethan Arahan, because I was considering Ethan Arahan, who has been, again, a really consistent point scorer throughout the whole season on this game. He's got them. I think he's now got the most interceptions on the whole platform. But it was trying to avoid picking two players from one team is something that, particularly when there's multiple games going on, for lots of teams, it was something I tried to stay away from. And also the fact that, as you mentioned, the ball's not going to be in the air very much against Shrewsbury, and isn't going to be on the ground very much against Shrewsbury and Rotherham. So maybe he won't have as much in terms of interceptions, because interceptions that he thrives, and he doesn't score particularly high for key passes. He does get one or two here and there, but not massively. It's interceptions is that he's the king at. And I don't think he's going to have many opportunities to intercept the ball. But so that I was so tempted to have an incredibly similar team to you. We have still got a similar team, of course, but there is a couple of differences. And those teams at the bottom, I had two options similar to you. Option one, go with consistency, pick the same two that you've picked. But Bolton are good, Stockport are good, Blackpool were bad, then we're good, then we're bad, now we're good again. So two of those three fixtures are really tough games. The caveat to that, of course, is that Birmingham are by far the best team in the league. So if they hit their form, as they have been really consistent recently, then they should win and be consistent. And then same story really with Leeds. Don't think they're necessarily as difficult, but those two away games kind of put me off a little bit there. So yeah, to be honest, I think in hindsight, knowing what I've picked, I think I probably would have picked Leeds. I'll explain in a moment as to why I didn't, but it's a strong side, Gaz. It's a strong side.
Should we have a look at your team? And bear in mind, you get more points for away wins. So there are tough away games, but Stoke actually are under a lot of pressure. They've been on really, really bad form, and Derby are indifferent. So I think they're two winnable away games. If Leeds were to go and win those away games by 2 clear goals, it kind of negates some of the Birmingham City matches, I think, personally. But anyway, here we go. Substandard Liège this week. Take us through it.
Well, it's the same back three, which is incredible, isn't it? And I've actually captained Alex Mitchell here, mainly because of the fixtures. I think there's 2 clean sheets potentially available against Cambridge and Crawley. Charlton have been indifferent, in all honesty, but Alex Mitchell has been a solid performer. Biggest issue for Charlton recently, or had a positive result against Northampton at the weekend, but recently has been goal scoring. But defensively, Alex Mitchell has been in the thick of it, really. So he's the highest scoring, one of the highest scoring defenders in the whole game now. And he's kind of come out of nowhere. So there's only Mickey Dimitri, who we've both picked as well, Hegem, oddly, Jimmy Dunn at QPR, Anthony O'Connor at Harrogate, that have scored more points than Alex Mitchell over the whole season that are defenders. So, and yeah, I went for it. I had a panic, though, and you were very honest with me, because I noticed that he had picked up 5 yellow cards this season. So my backup pick was Jayden Bogle of Leeds. But I really wanted to pick Mitchell, and you said, no, he's not suspended because it gets wiped after a certain period of time, which was game week 19. So he's okay, basically. He won't be suspended for the next match. So I decided, yep, okay, I'm going to go with Alex Mitchell then. Paudie O'Connor and Mickey Dimitri, you've mentioned. I've gone for Joe Whitworth in goal of Exeter, a really high performing goalkeeper in League One, and some favourable fixtures here. 2 home fixtures for Exeter against Bristol Rovers and Crawley. Expect at least 1 clean sheet out of those 2 games. And then Wickham away is going to be a tough one, but Whitworth has been known to make quite a lot of saves. So he does score quite highly for saves. So, yeah, I was struggling for goalkeepers this week. I had loads of options everywhere else, but goalkeepers was very tough. So I've gone for Whitworth. And then in midfield, I've gone for on form, Jack Rodoni. And as much as Coventry are very indifferent at the moment in terms of their overall performance levels, I think they've got some favourable fixtures here in regards to chance creation and goals. So Plymouth at home, Plymouth are abysmal away, absolutely abysmal. They're actually pretty good at home, but they are horrifically bad away from home. And they concede by far the most chances out of any team in the Championship. So hopefully an on-form Jack Redoney can score highly there. Millwall at home, again, won't be as clear-cut in regard to chances. They're much more solid defensively. But again, I think it's a winnable game for Coventry. And you'd like to think if ultimately, if you win a game, you've got to score at least a goal. And Jack Redoney has had a hand in most goals that Coventry have scored recently, whether it's an assist or a goal himself. And then Cardiff away, again, just a team that tends to concede a few chances. I just thought Jack Redoney was an interesting shout this week. And I don't think I picked him yet this season. So that was that. And then Finn Azaz. So I've stepped away from interceptions this week because I only really wanted to pick Ethan Arahan for interceptions and the fixtures didn't allow it. So I've gone for Finn Azaz. A couple of, you'd like to think, winnable games here for Middlesbrough and Sheffield Wednesday at home and Hull City. Of course, they've got Burnley at home as well, who'll be a tough game. But it doesn't really matter about goals conceded for these players, does it? It only really matters about whether they perform individually. Finn Azaz is the highest scoring midfielder on the whole game. And as you mentioned, he might not feature for a full 90 minutes in all 3 matches. However, when he's on the pitch, he does tend to make things happen. So I'm just hoping that even in one of those games, he could score a couple of goals in one of those games. It already justifies his selection. And then I've also picked Borja Sainz up top. I was unsure about this. He's our highest scoring forward in the game, but has actually hasn't scored highly on here for a few weeks. So I was really finding it difficult to pick a centre forward. All the other options I had, I quite like Middlesbrough, but you can't pick one of their strikers because you don't know which one's going to start. It's very, very bold to pick one of their centre forwards on there, particularly for three games in a row. So I was really struggling. So I felt Norwich have been indifferent recently, but they've got some winnable fixtures again. Millwall just mentioned, QPR you mentioned as well, and Luton away. They're all games in which Norwich will have chances, you'd expect, and Borja Sainz you'd expect. I really expected to score at least a goal overall in these games. Hopefully a couple. Now the teams at the bottom, this could if this goes well, this could be a real benefit for me. If it doesn't go well, it could of course be very much the opposite. I just really liked the fixtures. Now, you mentioned you picked Josh Knight because you liked Bristol City. I picked Bristol City because I liked Bristol City, but couldn't find a player that I wanted to pick from Bristol City. But I really wanted to include Bristol City this week in some way. So they were kind of a definite for me. Bristol City playing at home to Luton, at home to Portsmouth, and away to Plymouth. 3 winnable games. Again, Plymouth away is oddly tougher than it seems. I've just kind of slated them for their away form, but their home form was pretty good. But I just think Bristol City are a better team than Plymouth are, and you never know. Wayne really might have even lost his job by then, depending on the 2 games beforehand. So yeah, I've just really liked Bristol City this week. And then I suppose the wild card here, Salford City. So because Jayden Bogle was my backup for Alex Mitchell, if I wasn't allowed to include him, like Leeds were like my next best pick. So I was kind of thinking, well, I'll either include Bogle or I'll include Leeds. But then I saw Salford City's fixtures, playing at home to Barrow, who are not on good form, at home to Morecambe, who are on terrible form, and away to Harrogate, who aren't on great form as well. And Salford themselves have been really consistent at picking up points recently. Downside to this, of course, is it's League Two, and you tend to find teams are less consistent overall in League Two than they are in League One and the Championship. You tend to find more consistency higher up. But I liked it. I liked it was a little bit away from the norm, I suppose, a little bit away from the traditional kind of big names that have become consistent in being selected. And I thought if it is going to be quite tight, you never know. That might be the difference. If things do go really well, that could be the difference of a big score, because there are 60 plus points available for the teams at the bottom this game week. So it could make a big difference. So yeah, this was me thinking, what if we pick similar teams? Gary's got the triple captain, not the triple captain, sorry, the super
Max
captain, whatever it's called,
yeah.
max captainship. Thank you. What could I do that could potentially help me pick up some points where he might not? And that was what I thought of. There's always one team, isn't there, over the Christmas period that wins 3 out of 3, and it's always a team that you never expect. So you never know. It might be Salford. Let's give that a go. That is a wild card. That could be the difference. But I think I'm already on the back foot this week, so that might be the difference there. You never know.
Well, I think the Salford pick's really clever. There's Barrow and Morecambe are both struggling a little bit. Salford have won, I think, 4 in their last 5. Harrogate are obviously struggling as well. Yeah, I think it's a clever pick, and they're coming into their own. Obviously, I can't really comment too much on Whitworth, Azaz, and Redoni because they were all in original drafts of mine. Particularly, I mean, Whitworth was. I've actually got a saved image somewhere on my computer of my team with Whitworth in it. So it would have been another similarity, and I've changed that at last minute, which usually comes back to bite me. And I did put in a chat somewhere as well. I couldn't decide whether to go with Redoni or Arahan. So, the difference here could well be the teams at bottom and the max captainship, because obviously that is an outlier. And if we looked back at last week's teams, I've closed them down. You think about the max captain, Clara, you would have had 8 points rather than however many. Dimitri would have been 11. I would have had 5 maybe points more. If you then triple that over 3 games, it could be the 15-point difference. But then that 15-point difference can quickly be cancelled out by 2 favourable results from the teams at the bottom. I've played it safe. You've taken a risk. That's really going to be, I think, the difference between the 2 teams is either the max captain or the teams were picked at the bottom. So, can you believe, Chris, we've done 31 minutes?
That's incredible.
I know. So we're going to have to wrap it up, really, because I've got places to be and people to do. Not literally. So we are going to bid you Merry Christmas. And at this point, Happy New Year as well, because we won't be back until after January the 1st. But the first 6 months of the real EFL, not the real EFL, that's the old thing I used to do, the EFL Fantasy Football League show, the show that we enjoy recording more than you enjoy watching, has been a pleasure. So thank you to those of you that do enjoy watching it as much as we enjoy recording it. It's really appreciated. But this is me signing out. Game week 20 on a win. Game week 21, what will happen? We'll see you in 2025. Thanks for watching.
Bye-bye.